A fine office. Very fine office indeed. Mayor-elect Mickey Doyle accepted the compliment from an old friend. He wasn't really supposed to take up occupancy at City Hall until after a proper inauguration, but possible murder being the reason the last mayor vacated the office so abruptly, City Hall wasn't quite so picky. Things move fast in the shady city, and the hot seat could never be allowed to cool down. "Think it suits me," Mickey grinned. "Some might even say it's what I was born for." "Indeed. We all have our callings in life. Political office was most definitely yours." When the knock-knock boss lady was sent down, the lawmakers demanded that the good doctor hand over her Aunt Tawny, who was one of his residents. Custody of the knock-knock baroness was not forthcoming. Eventually she disappeared without a trace from his keep. Winslow maintained that he had no knowledge of Tawny's current whereabouts, and even offered to assist in the search for her. That arrangement suited him just fine, because when the bailiffs were there to greet him in Luane, it had looked as though he was running from something. They wanted to peek behind the walls of his precious clinic, and he couldn't have that. His good friend Mickey Doyle just happened to be in one of the most prominent positions in the city. His good friend Mickey Doyle just happened to be cousin to the fiercest sitting High Court judge. Both of these things thankfully managed to smooth things over for Winslow. Karen Doyle was no fool, though. She knew his abrupt trip to Lynn was no holiday, but whilst he made himself useful, he kept himself out of immediate danger, at least until they found his missing resident. "Now you keep that pesky cousin of yours off my back, and I'll scratch yours," was what Winslow put to Mickey. "Gentlemen," said another, "I would very much like to get to the matter at hand." The other cut an interesting figure. He had long curling hair that almost looked like a wig. He had an old-fashioned presence complete with top hat, which he kept on whilst they conducted their meeting. His name was Eugene Morris. They called him the tailor around the city, and he was the premier funeral director in Colford. He was more than that, though. He was highly respected and catered to the deaths of so many from all walks of life. "Yes, of course," Winslow agreed. "Quite so. Filthy business, this is, gentlemen, but business none the less. I met the girl on many occasions. I considered her aunt not just a resident of mine, but a dear friend. Death is such a frequent visitor in my profession that one must put personal feelings aside. I need not tell you that, though, Eugene." Mickey looked across his desk. "So what is to happen?" Winslow stood and turned his attention to a fresh skeleton. It had been fitted in the boss lady's signature red dress. A wig of soft human hair had been draped on its skull and allowed to flow over the shoulder. "Preservation is a must," said Winslow, observing the bones. "The bones are fine, but I feel her organs, kidneys, liver, spleen could all be put to good use." "Profiting from her death is highly distasteful," Eugene put in. Winslow tutted. "I quite agree. Perhaps you misunderstand me. I don't mean to profiteer. I'm merely stating the fact that Tabitha's demise, warranted or not, could help many others live." Eugene stood, and he too was examining the skeleton. "Yes, but you mean to use the fact that organs once belonged to a prominent figure to drive up the price." Winslow shook his head. "My dear friend, I admire your nobility, but if I may be candid, profit is what makes the world circulate. Without it, we may as well all just go straight to your good self for our final suit." "The skeleton itself," the tailor saw fit to comment. "Cheap sensationalism, unbefitting of a man in high office. What would her honour say?" He flicked the red dress and stared into the empty eye sockets. Mickey grinned. "If I'm to be mayor of this city, I cannot hide my cousin's shadow. I need to make my own mark. That girl stood as a symbol against everything we're trying to build, and not only that, she was an extortionist and a murderer. Her death and display of her remains will show others who look to step up to her place that the shady city will no longer be a home for those who have such a blatant disregard for the rules. Not while I'm mayor." Winslow grinned. "Bravo," he said. "Spoken like a true man of the hot seat." Eugene didn't seem convinced, but he said nothing. "The skeleton will be a symbol," he said. "The doctor, you will deal with the organs as tactfully as Harbour House will allow." Eugene nodded. Winslow clasped his hands together. Mickey's telecom buzzed. He pushed the button to answer. "Yes?" "Your campaign advisor, sir, is here to go over your inauguration speech." "Thank you. Hold him there for a few minutes." The boss lady's skeleton would be stored away. The office would be tidied. The business of the city would go on. Coldridge Park was home to an expansive cemetery. It was the final resting place of Detective Joel Hicks, who had been bludgeoned to death during the transport of Paddy Mac from CPD custody to Colford Correctional. Hicks was a good man. He tried to keep a neutral head. I guess it was only inevitable that the tension in the city would catch him in a crossfire. Lydia took my arm as we entered the gathering of mourners. "You okay, Sam?" she asked kindly. I wasn't. After everything that happened, I was far from it. But realising that there were many more worse off than me meant that there was still a long way to go. "I'll be fine." Reynolds and Franklin were the first to greet us. Both of them were members of Lydia's agency team. They had been particularly close to Hicks. Reynolds looked better. I hadn't seen him since he had one knockout round with Simon Punchline Penn. He had tried to stop Tabitha escaping the Knock Knock Club. "So sad," said Franklin. "I don't know what to do with these things." "Bond a farewell, I suppose," was my suggestion. Franklin gave a solemn nod of his head. In the distance I spotted Hicks's wife Olivia. She was swarmed by well-wishers and mourners. She seemed to be holding up well. She clasped the hand of her son, Hicks's stepson, Milo. The boy appeared to have garnered a strength beyond his age. I released Lydia's arms. "I'm going to go and speak to Olivia, see if there's anything she needs." The three agents departed. Franklin put his arm around Lydia's shoulder. "Come on, babes," she said, with his usual extravagance. The mourners that swamped Olivia parted as I approached. Releasing her son's hand, Olivia hugged me with a sombre smile. "Just wanted to see how you were," I said. It was a silly inquiry. Is anyone ever okay with such a loss? Having faced a similar one with my wife Teresa, I should have understood. I knew what she was going through, but death was such a personal thing. I never would fully understand her experience. "Thank you, Sam," she said. She turned to Milo. "Milo, this is Sam Crusoe. He was a friend of Joel's." I shook the young man's hand. He had a strong grip. Just a child, forced to hold it together in an environment that would have broken people many years his senior. "It's nice to meet you," I told him sincerely. "I just wish it could have been under better circumstances." Milo managed a smile. "Thank you, Mr. Crusoe. He was a good man." Milo spoke the truth for the adults. He spoke it for the city. Hicks was a good man, and the fact of the matter was there would be many more good men and women lost before it was over. "Mrs. Hicks." We were interrupted. The woman's voice harsh, but suitably sober for the occasion. Thin of face, with black hair and pale complexion, her expression was severe but genuinely mournful. The lawmaker's pin in her blazer glinted. Judge Karen Doyle, destroyer of the shanties, closer of City Main and breaker of the boss lady, offered her condolences. "Thank you, ma'am," replied Olivia. "We're doing all we can to bring Detective Hicks' killer to justice. He's a sad loss to the department and to the city." She drew a small box from the pocket of her coat. She opened it, and a silver commemorative coin with the seal of the city was contained within. This rightfully should have been his to thank him for his service. Perhaps in his stead this young man could hold on to it as a reminder of the order we aim to bring to the city. She passed the coin to Milo. The little boy was in awe of it. "Thank you, ma'am," he said. "Remember what it means, and what your stepfather gave his life for." Milo nodded. He closed the box over and looked to his mother. "This is Sam Crusoe," Olivia introduced me. Doyle narrowed her gaze on me. "I've been following your progress, Mr. Crusoe. I assume now that the trial is over you'll be returning to the Colford Daily." "No," I admitted. "Not right away." "The press is a difficult world to navigate," said the judge. "I do hope we can come together to bring the shade of the city into new light." I agreed. The press had power to topple those on top. It had the power to expose those in the highest positions for the true people underneath. I had to be a level head in the city tone. With those thoughts in mind, we bid farewell to Detective Joel Hicks, and the way the city used to be. The apartment the agency had given Lydia was welcoming. Not much time had been allowed to make it a home, but attempts by Lydia had made a difference. There was a photo of her and her sister on the table. Cynthia was homelier than Lydia, but equally as pretty. Glasses, warm smile, a vet. There was also a photo of her, Franklin, Reynolds, and Agent Kim. Before the camera captured their image, Lydia must have said something to Kim that caused her to laugh. They were a close-knit group, and they had welcomed me with open arms. I was thankful for their support then, and I've been grateful for it every day since. Here you are, Franklin said, emerging from his room in the apartment carrying fresh bedding for me. Hurry, it's about to start, Lydia informed him. Franklin laid the bedding down and threw himself into the sofa. Myself sat between the two agents. Lydia passed him a slice of pizza. He examined it. You're such a bad influence on me, babes, he said, but he ate it nonetheless. On screen a broadcast had been set up outside of City Face, the mayoral office. The large clock that gave the building its name ticked down on the gathering. Normally I would have been among the press covering the story, but recent events had left me in the need to distance myself. It was the only way I was going to be able to find my own perspective. We're here at City Face, where we are about to welcome Mickey Doyle as he takes his place as Colford City Mayor. I'm Anna Barker from Colford City News, the reporter facing the camera explained. The footage opened to show the lawns outside the building filled with reporters, public and security teams tasked with protecting the mayor. I'm surprised they didn't ask us to run security detail, Franklin commented. The camera scanned the crowd. Karen Doyle could be seen waiting by the side of the stage with her son Cameron. City Hall has its own detail, Lydia answered, still watching the screen. Didn't do Filtz much good, did it? Franklin put in. Lydia raised her eyebrow. Do you want to be following Mickey Doyle around all day? Franklin's hand raised to his chest. Oh, no, he exclaimed. The man gives me the creeps. The man in question stepped up to the pulpit to give his first speech to the people of Colford as their new mayor. We'll be ready for you in just a couple of minutes, Mr. Mayor, the campaign manager said. Mickey Doyle had never been nervous of public speaking in his life. Head of his debate team at Kingsgate Secondary, student class president for all 4 years of his undergraduate studies at the university, voted most likely to enter a career in politics. He was nervous then, though. It was what Mickey was built for. It was what the Doyle blood flowed for. Power, position, authority. Mr. Mayor. That was him now, and he had the whole city at his feet. I will be a fair and just ruler, he had cried as a boy with the red superhero cape tied around his neck. The D on it was for Doyle. The other boys said it meant Dwarf Dick. Who was laughing now, though? You would have to reach beyond the shady city and all her father's regions to find a position of authority that was higher than the one he was about to assume. Dwarf Dick Doyle had come far. Karen watched him intently from the crowd. Without her father, Sergeant Major Doyle, round, it was to her the leadership of the family fell. Even Mickey's own father looked to the Sergeant Major's command. Mickey supposed some might say the High Court was an authority above the Mayor's office, and Karen's presence in the crowd served as a reminder of that, but he wasn't about to split hairs. Good luck, Uncle Mickey, Cameron had said. A kindly boy, beaten down and squeezed below a very thick thumb. What was to be expected when his mother was reputedly the most ferocious sitting High Court judge the city had ever seen? Mickey understood Cameron's position. The Sergeant Major was pretty much the same. He was always trying to toughen his nephew up. He only had the 4 girls, Karen, Ashley, Leslie and Laura, so he saw it as his duty to make a man out of Mickey. The Sergeant Major had torn the cape from him. Superheroes are nonsense, he spat. It's a pleasant fiction for children with no other hope or opportunity. You're created in boardrooms to sell toys to gullible fools and children with no one else to look up to. But you are better than that. You are a Doyle. The Sergeant Major took his cape and disposed of it, but he gave Mickey something much better in exchange. He gave him the confidence to soar higher than the cape would ever have taken him. Now he was stepping up to the highest office in the land. We're ready for you now, Mr. Mayor, the campaign manager beckoned. Cheers, applause, respect, appreciation. Thank you, he began. This gave him the chance to remember the opening to his speech. From there, the rest of the words would just flow. It's an honour and a privilege to be in the service of the city. Excellent start. But it is with sadness that I fill this role when my predecessor had made such a mark and had a fruitful career ahead of him. Jim Phelps was a great man. Need to stop referring to him in the past tense when nobody has been recovered yet. Jim Phelps is a good friend. He is sorely missed, but let us stay positive. After all, what is Colford, if not able to stay positive through trying times? I owe it to Jim and to everyone else who has ever taken the hot seat to do the best I can. I owe it to all who voted for me. I'm grateful for the faith you have shown in me. Give a few moments to absorb the applause. I will clear this city of the lawlessness and deprivation that it faces. Criminals no longer have a place here. We are good people, and we will no longer be held captive by corruption. Good use of word choice. Moving forward, my office is open to those who need it most. Thugs, murderers, cop killers be damned. This is your warning. It is time to leave Colford. Smile. Look determined. Look sad at the loss of Hicks. Breathe. There was a thunderous applause. Even Cairns' tight lips etched a smile. The Sergeant Major would be proud. A hot seat isn't occupied long. Where are you going, Mum? Milo asked. Just have a little appointment. I'll be back in 5, Olivia showed her son. Do you want me to come with you? Milo asked, taking his duty as the man of the house seriously. Olivia smiled. She brushed his black hair back and caressed his cheeks warmly. I'll be fine, Jiggles. Milo laughed and pulled himself away. Mom, he complained. He was too old now for the pet name used for him when he was a baby. It was a name that Tabitha had been first to grace him with because of the way his tubby belly jiggled when he laughed as an infant. Olivia tousled his hair. Getting too big for your own good, she commented. But you'll always be my little Jiggles. Milo shook his head in exasperation, but he was glad his mother was in good spirits. I need you to stay here and keep Chloe company, okay? Chloe Grover, a skinny girl, simple-natured, was a victim of Olivia's ex-husband Dennis. Prostituted by the knock-knock manager, Olivia gave her shelter after Dennis was taken in by the lawmakers. She was sat on the floor in front of the television. She was 19, but Milo was more mature. Milo, she called, it's on again. Her cheer had come as an advertisement for a new brand of Jolly Shopper biscuits flashed on the screen. Actor Lawrence DeBow was holding a long-tailed macaque named Amari, speaking to her as though they'd been friends for years. Chloe pointed to the screen. It's so cute he can talk to monkeys. I won't be long, Olivia kissed her son's head. The pregnancy test was positive. The visit to the doctor was all but a formality. The spirit of Detective Hicks would live on after all.